Okay, so hello everyone, good evening. I hope you all are doing well from wherever in the world you are watching during these tough times. And we have some really amazing people with us right now from all over the world. We have people from US, from Germany, and from Pakistan, from almost all over the world. So it's really great to have you all here and looking forward to a great conversation, a great discussion today. So moving on to Autumn Drila.
Today, we have tried to include participants from around the world to discuss this topic in our roundtable meeting to get a wider view on the perspectives on mental health in different regions. Would you like to introduce yourselves a bit and tell us why you chose psychology as your choice of study?
If you could introduce yourselves and start why you chose psychology as your subject. Sammy, would you like to go first?
I guess so. My name is Sammy. I am an undergraduate at Brown University in the United States. I study public health and Hispanic studies on the preclinical psychology track. What drew me to psychology was just its lack of diversity, if that makes any sense. And just, I was saying this before we went live, the field of psychology historically has really only tailored to the needs of individuals who are upper middle class, white, straight, cisgender, have legal citizenship status in the US. So I'm interested in studying how we can support more diverse populations.
That's great. That's great. So, Sophia, if you could go now and one by one, if you could.
Okay, start. My name is Sophia van Alpen. I'm actually in this moment from Austria. Been born in Baltic states from European Union and was living for 10 years in Germany, where I did graduated last year in the private academy of the practical psychology in Endorf. As a psychological counselor, and the reason why I did choose this profession is well, actually, because of course, in the first line, because of the wanting to help to the people to try to find out of the difficult situations by their own, and to learn also to treat the stress and the difficult situations of the life by them own. This is the reason why I'm here. So much to me. There's nothing new. Always the same reason.
Miraj Hussain, would you like to go next?
Hi, Assalamu alaikum. I am Mohammad Biraj Hossain from Bangladesh. I study MSc in Jagannath University, Clinical and Counseling Psychology. And psychology is like a choice of my luck. It's not I am choosing the psychology. In our country, when we give the university admission, the subject choice is like auto choice, and it's comes psychology. But now I enjoy the psychology much because I can relate it what I'm learning, what I'm doing, practicing. I can use all of things in my practical life. So I am so interested, and now I am also working graphologist, handwriting analyst, seeing the handwriting. We can see the people personality expression and many other things. Thanks to all.
Sauda Selim Mimu, would you like to tell us why you chose psychology as your choice of study?
Good evening, everyone. Me, Sauda Selim Mimu, and currently I am MSc student in Clinical and Counselling Psychology, Jagannath University, Dhaka, Bangladesh. As Mira said, in our country, psychology, the subject psychology is allocated from the university authorities, and by an admission test, there is no option to choose this subject. But this is one of my favorite subjects because I can relate every situations, everyone's behavior, everything this with this subject. When from the last 4 years, during my studying periods, uh, which I learned, and I think it's an applied science, and it's an applied field. So that's why I have a great opportunities to apply all of my learnings, which things, and every terms which we have learned from our universities and our honorable faculties. So that's all. Thank you.
That's great to hear. So we have Batu, Miss Batu among us. Would you like to introduce yourself, Miss Batu, a bit? Can you hear us?
I think the connection might be a bit slow.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on with our subject, we all know that mental health is a really important subject, and it is something that we should talk about more, but people do not. And in some regions, it is paid less attention than the others. So we do notice a variety in this. So how receptive are the people in your region of the subject? How do they deal with the subject of mental health, and how do they react to it?
Do you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
well, I hope my speech is not going to be too long because, well, I actually made a very big experience in all of Europe in different parts, from the Baltic states. I moved to Italy. I was living in Germany. I'm living now in Austria. And there is one facet I saw that there is a very big difference have been mental health treated by the different states, even if we're speaking about Europe as a union. Baltic states are more poor, so there is no economical help from the state to organizations who are caring about the mental health of the population. So and there still lives this, I call it ghost of the USSR, where the people, they are a little bit afraid and a little bit ashamed to speak about the mental problems. So in the north of Europe, this is not really working anyhow, because also the state doesn't gives out any money for the health insurance to treat kind of problems of the population, and the people are used to fix their problems by themselves. Of course, having the next problems, as example, the depressions, which one are not treated by the professionals, those depressions ends very often in alcohol addiction and a lot of things what follows normally. In Italy, I did so a perfect work of the state together with a health system, in a special for the people, for the mental problems, because the state does give some money and finances the official hospitals who still have a time, place, and money to give the possibility to the people take this help for free. So they are also trying to, let's say, we are talking about the treatments, we are talking about the therapies, which one takes in the normal from few months until years. But when the state does want a healthy population, of course, it finds also the ways to give the money. And the third example, it's a Europe, German-speaking languages, the countries where we do live pretty good, let's say. We have a health insurance, we have enough money, we're earning enough money. These states, what are producing the pharma medicine, doesn't really care about the mental health, because here you see the practice of the doctors. When you come into the psychological therapist, he just prescribes you some kind of medicine, which one is also paid by the state, and this is what works in the first line of interest. The non-profitable organizations doesn't really works. What my experience is saying that those non-profitable organizations paid by European Union are normally something like money wash, because they are not really offering a real help to the persons with the psychological diseases. And of course, if you go to the psychologist, you pay in the normality from 140 until 250 euros. It's crazy money in a 1 hour just for one treatment. So a normal person who does normal job, a sister in the hospital, she cannot allow to herself to go to the professionals, and you don't get real help by the places you get the help for free. So I see that the state is not really interested to have a healthy population, only because, of course, it's more easier to prescribe a medicine, because you get any kind of medicine, any kind of drugs by your house doctor. You know, you have just to come in and say, I have a depression, and there's already in 5 minutes something prescribed to you. And this is the next problem what I see in the Middle Europe, talking about my experience. I thank you.
Oh, that's great. So, Sammy, you are in a developed country. United States is a pretty developed country, and the medical system there is quite developed, and the technology there is as well. So, can you relate to what Sophia said, or do you stand somewhere different in this subject?
I think I'll touch on a couple different things. I definitely relate to what Sophia said about the diversity in services, and there's no one answer that's going to address everyone's experiences. I think despite the US being developed, our healthcare system is frankly a mess. So not everybody has health insurance. There are kind of 2 different traditional routes for receiving health insurance. The first is through the government. So there are a couple different criteria, but most people, it means that they're living below poverty level. The issue with that is a lot of providers, therapists are not going to be in the insurance network. So even if you have that insurance, you can only see a certain group of medical providers, and because they're not paid as much, the providers, so that's why they often don't align their plans with that. The other issue we saw, especially with COVID, is a lot of people who have private health insurance, they receive it through their employers. So when people lost their jobs due to the pandemic, they also lost their health insurance. So that was a mess all around. The other issue on top of all of that is a lot of therapists are what's called out of network. So even if you have health insurance, they don't accept insurance. So that's the same fees that Sophia said, about 150 to 250 US dollars for a 45-minute session. That's not accessible for most people. So the healthcare system here really needs a complete overhaul. It is not effective whatsoever. And I don't think that's a very divisive statement. I think a lot of people are in agreement with that. The other thing I want to note is a great strength of the US is its diversity, but because of that, there's not going to be this one experience fits all approach. So for example, if someone in my family, we're all white, they wanted to pursue mental health services, they will have the option immediately. They know all of their providers will be speaking English. Most of their providers will also be white. None of us have any lived experience with immigration, migration, anything of that sort. If someone who's South Asian is looking to pursue treatment, they probably won't have the option to select a South Asian provider depending on where they're at. So the experience that someone who holds privileged and dominant identities has is going to be different than a lot of other folks.
Yeah, that's $200 to $250 per session is quite expensive. It's not that good. So Miraj, what would you say about the situation in your country? How receptive are the people in your country of the subject, and how do they react to it?
First, saying the Bangladesh, I mentioned a survey which published last year in June. This publication, National Mental Health Survey 2018 and 19. In survey, they have mentioned 17% adults are suffering mental health issue. Among these 70%, 92.3% do not seek the medical attention. They don't go to psychologist or others list. This is the exact condition in our country survey. In my real experience in Bangladesh, people are not aware about mental health. They think a mental health problem is he is a severe, he need to go hospital, and he is not normal people. People are not believe that normal people feel any problem or adjustment problem, they can go psychologist. But in our country, it's not common. If anyone goes psychologist or a psychiatric, people think that this man become mad. He is mad people, and everyone try not cooperate to him. It's a big problem. But in our country, money is session fee is not too much because it's a very cheap in our country. Generally 1,000 taka, or in online there are many people are good people giving 500 taka in a session 45 minutes. And during the corona situation, first time maximum organization give the free service in Bangladesh, and everyone can take the free session through online, and that was very big change in our country. And another problem is in our village people and some educated people are aware mental health, but in village people or others rural people are not aware about mental health. And in our country, Bangladesh is a much religious country. There are many religious people and religious institution, which we said madrasa, and their people are not little bit about the mental health. For example, last year when I go in madrasa for one of my project research, I need to collect some data of sample who is more happy to compare for purpose of my research. They don't cooperate with me because they are just thinking like a surprise. What is mental health? Is there anything word in the world? But I have the good link. I first the principal is my familiar, and they are supporting me. That's the big problem. Another is rural, others is religion. People are not aware mental health. That's all.
Okay, so as you say that a lot of people here receive mental health, a person who is suffering from mental health as crazy, and they need to go to some isolated place or somewhere where they're not treated as far as they should be treated as. So Sada, would you like to agree to this? Agree to what Miraj says in terms of your country's situation?
Yeah, Sumaya, I totally agree with Miraj, because in our country, and not only Bangladesh, Asia Pacific, most of the country, and their view and their perspective through the mental health, this term, and there is this big stigma, and which we can term as the cultural stigma. And as we know, every culture has a different way of looking at mental health. So, but in our country, most of the peoples, educated and uneducated both, not all of the educated people, but most of the educated people also consider mental health problem, mental health issues as a weakness, and they always try to hide this problem, but they don't actually. This is I think it's our cultural effect, because which society we have grown up, our society, our culture, and they from the childhood we always see that they mainly focus on our physical illness, our physical conditions, and that's why most of them and as Miraz said about a survey, 70% adult persons suffering from various kinds of mental illness, but most of them, 92%, are remain untreated, and that's the big problems and the big issues. And I would like to say cultural stigma and this mental illness, mental health, and this term has a cultural stigma in our country, like developing country like Bangladesh. And here also some thing about cultural influence and our community support, our family support also are big issues, because which community, which society we belongs from, and they always they most of the time if you can see our if we have any mental illness, if we are suffer from any kind of mental illness, and we determine that we would share this problem, this crisis moment with some of our friend or our family members, or somebody else, but and that moment we thought that they will isolated me, they will overgeneralize me as a mental illness. That means you are gonna mad. That types of issues actually I observe from my last few experiences. And the another issue is resource, but nowadays before mental I must say people's nowadays are more conscious about their mental health problems than rather than before, because they are now Bangladesh has so many mental health support institutions, organization who all they, and most of them provide free mental health support by through online uh, and a minimum or by through a minimum fees which we can afford easily. But main thing is mental awareness, mental health awareness. It's a we don't know, and we have to aware peoples and our folks that mental health issues is a big issue. Our body and our mind both are connected. If your mind is calm, then your body will be calm for sure. But this connection, we have to aware them about this connection between our somatic, our body and our mind. So I think Bangladesh's mental health awareness improving day by day, and it will developed one day, and people's all which things we mentioned 92% are remain untreated in case of mental health problems. We hope it will decrease, and thanks to
Certainly. Yeah, yeah.
yes,
Thank you
I
for
would like
your
to
Certainly.
especially thanks Mon, because we peoples are from psychology background, but your others what do I say, from other subject or other field, but you are doing amazing work, and it's really I really appreciate it. which you have.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much for your comments.
So thank you,
Thank
Sauda,
you.
for sharing your opinion. So we know that there are causes like extreme stress, neglect, experiencing discrimination, or poverty, etc., that play a huge role in developing many disorders, including but not limited to substance abuse or PTSD. What are the most common mental health disorders that you see in your country that are related to these issues? Sophia, would you like to start?
Well, the most I saw the addiction of substances, from the drugs, alcohol, until for example, in so developed countries as Germany and Austria, the most strong countries in Europe, addiction on the pharma drugs. And this is actually very sad, because we are here so stressed and so used to be busy, to not take a time for our mental health, that the people are just searching for the easiest way. And the easiest way is always just to take something to just turn off the brain. I know the background of it, because I'm researching very lot, last time listening very lot to the Dr. Kurpatov. He's one of the best Russia's psychiatrists. I do understand that this is something pretty scientific. It's our brain what's fighting in this moment right now with our consciousness, and in this fight there starts kind of issues with ourselves. But it depends also from the fastness of the development of the country, so of the economics and the politics, guys, because we are like from all the sides always confronted with an internet, with Facebook. You know, each of us knows what it means just to open the phone and open the Facebook. You're just losing your time for hours and hours sitting there and watching small videos, which one turns your brain off. Of course, the brain is lazy machine, which one doesn't want to work and is sabotaging your consciousness, which one is saying, well, actually, I should take a time for myself. In our countries, the people are trying to find some kind, just the easiest way to change this condition. So it's normally kind of addiction to substances, and that's unfortunately true in all of Europe, from North Russia until here. Okay, Russia is another experience. The new generation did already change the direction of the treatment of the health, from the mental health, but it's another discussion. But in Europe, we have still this problem that the people are always searching for the easiest way.
Yes, thank you, Sophia, for your answer. Sami, from a similarly developed country, do you agree that addiction, like drug addiction and internet addiction, are one of the main disorders that are commonly found?
I think substance use disorder is very prevalent. I think if we're ranking based off of most prevalent, it would probably be anxiety and depression at the top. As far as the framework for causes, I think something that we use in at least my department here, it's the biopsychosocial model. I'm curious if anyone else has used. It's essentially just saying there are 3 different factors. So we're not saying it's just biological, it's just psychological, or it's just social factors. So someone, in the case of alcohol use disorder, for example, they might have a gene from a parent that makes them more susceptible to developing it. They might have a psychological factor, their personality trait that leads them to use alcohol initially, and then maybe some social factors like stressors that reinforce it. Or it could be what Sophia was talking about, just constantly going through your phone, or especially on social media, it's easy to make comparisons to other people, so that can stress people out more. So as far as causal factors, I'd say there's no one single one. I think there's definitely a lot of stress and people feel a lot of pressure, and when we don't have government support, especially during the pandemic. The government gave out one stimulus check and people haven't received funds since. So if you don't have your financial needs met, it's a lot more difficult to focus on your mental health needs.
So as Sophia said that addiction, and you said as well that addiction is a big problem there. So do you think that these addiction problems cause depression, anxiety, and common problems like this?
I really don't think we can say if one causes the other. I think we see them presented together a lot of times. And I think for everybody, their own individual experience is different. So someone might be feeling very anxious and that leads them to engage in substance use, or someone might be engaging in substance use and then that leads them to feel very anxious. So everyone's lived experience is a different narrative.
Thank you, Sammy, for your opinion. Miraj, would you like to say something on this topic, on what are the most common disorders in our country?
In our country, National Mental Health Survey last year, they mentioned that 67% are depressive disorder and 4.5% anxiety disorder and 2.1% somatic symptoms, and surprising 0.2% are substance or addicted disorder. And in our country, this is the result of survey. And I also believe this, but I hope addiction problem are increasing in our country day by day, and the relationship problem are becomes more. And counseling session, we also see this very common. And for COVID situation, health anxiety issue increase more. First time when we are doing, I did an internship in Monoseva organization from January. That time when corona affected, I saw many clients are related health anxiety disorder and other things related this kind of disorder, but now it's reduced. People are become more easy. That's all.
Yeah, I do agree with you being in the same country. So it's a bit argumentative subject. It's a bit of argumentative subject. So moving on, do you think that there is any kind of stigma attached to the response of people, how people react to the subject of mental health and how they treat depression, anxiety, and this kind of disorders? Do you think that any kind of cultural or traditional stigma is attached here?
Yes, in our counseling, we are focusing one skill, that is non-judgmental, and we are trying to show, trying to empathy the client. But in real life, people are who is suffering any psychological problem, he don't get any others people easily share his problem, because if you share your problem with others people, you feel healed and you feel more peaceful. But it's a cultural nature. In our country, we are more judgmental and we can easily judge others people very quickly and not showing the empathy. We are only showing the sympathy. Doing this, it's all be okay. That's not empathy, it's a sympathy. And they are face this kind of problem first time. For this, they are suppressed, they are feeling their problem. They don't even even the husband have the problem, he don't share with our wife, and like mother have problem, don't share with the child, or child problem not share with mother, because a judgmental attitude and not showing the empathy. This is the, I hope, the biggest stigma. And another also we mentioned that when we are talking about the mental health, people are thinking this man yes really related with mad people or anything. They don't believe that general people can take the counseling, they can start their general life. And another problem, in our country, session fee is very cheap. I also said that, but people are not agree to continue the session. First, like as they are coming in 1 or 2 session, they are okay. But after that, we cannot continue. They don't continue. For example, I gave one of my relative. she has the conversion disorder, and when one side of the body become paralyzed, everyone go to the hospital and take admitted, and medicine doctor, psychiatric, they're seeing 3 psychiatric doctor and continue this. But I also mentioned, the doctor also mentioned, they have the psychological problem, all physical problem, they have no physical problem, you need counseling. But even I have a good person in that family, uh, they also honor me and hear my talk. And I also said that go in counseling. After convincing many times, they also go one day in counseling. But for going one day, before they also go 3 times in psychiatric or medicine, because they are feel very good when go to in doctor. Doctor give the test and some medicine. That's like one kind of reinforcement for him. But when going psychologist, they don't give any medicine, don't anything, and they are hearing the problem as our counseling step. And people are like, what I will do, why I'll come. But the problem will reduce this kind of place. They don't feel. Even till now, I cannot. They are not continue their counseling. I also give the in Corona. I also manage the free counseling. It's not related with money. Yes, first 3 or 4 sessions they are continue when I take the supervision, follow up. I see on going or not, and now they are not taking continue their counseling session. That's the big problem, because counseling is a long-term procedure and people are not focusing on that.
Miraj,
Yeah.
Yes.
Miraj, I would like to add something, which Sophia mentioned before, that peoples in our country, they mainly choose medication or medicines-based treatment rather than psychotherapy or counseling, and this is the big problem. When we suffer from those persons who are aware of mental illness, and but most of them choose psychiatrist and medicine and medication based therapy first, but they don't like long time counseling session process. This is the big problem, I think, because medicine will tranquil your brain, your neuron and your neural system for a few moments, few time, as we know, but your behavioral change will come through a counseling session. But this I think this part and these issues should be we have to aware people about these issues.
Yeah, yeah.
What would like to say?
Yeah, I agree with you being in the same region. So, Sophia, you say that you moved from a lot of places and you have seen a lot of corners of Europe, how they react and how it's treated there. You talked about it before. So, do you think that in the corners or in any country, there's a certain stigma that sticks around and it's different in another country in Europe?
Well, there was a stigma maybe about 10, 15, 20 years ago, but we took this trend from America that there is nothing bad to go to the psychological counselor, that to having a mental issues can have everybody. If it was treated bad like about 10 years ago, now it's a total normality. And okay, no one's actually not any more surprised that the neighbor is visiting a psychological counselor. We have the next problem. No one can allow to go to the psychological counselor because it costs too much money. This is the next problem. And the health insurance of the government doesn't covers professional help. Well, if you take the clinical psychologist, which one maybe has a place of therapy, then you have to wait for this place from 6 months until sometimes 1.5 years 2 years just to get a place, maybe once a week or once or twice in 2 weeks to go to the psychologist. But I'm sorry, if I have a depression, I cannot wait for 6 months, guys. I have to go to psychologist right now, because those depressions unfortunately can end not in only kind of attitude to use some drugs that can end in a suicide. And this is the next problem, because this is something that actually happens, you know. And if there is no help at the moment, we are having too big risk. But if I don't have the money, I cannot get a psychological help anywhere. And we in Europe, we do have those financial questions and problems, I suppose, in America too. In the US, Semi, you're nicking for sure. In the general, the situation is the same. And I wanted to, before when I did stop to speak the last time, I wanted to add something. The addiction to the drugs, alcohol or something like this, the depression, it starts first of all from a depression, and the depression just starts from traumas in the childhood, guys. We are talking about the thief's psychology. There have to be someone professional, because the friends cannot help to find out where have you been traumatized, why can you not treat your stress anymore. There have to be some kind of professional help, at least maybe advice from some professionals, which one is able for everybody. But the problem is we don't have it in Europe because of the money, and you don't have it there in Bangladesh because of the stigmas, because the clinical psychologists, they sell this actually with a negative touch. Because if you will try to explain to the person that to go to the psychologist, there is nothing criminal on it, and that you are not going to prescribe a medicine, but to teach the person treat this problem, I suppose the person will be interested actually to come to you if you will explain that first you have to find out what happened. And this is the moment when the patient can open. This is the moment when the patient will start to speak. And of course, in the countries like India or somewhere in the south, the people who are still living like we did 10, 20 years ago, because it was a shame here also a few 10 years ago. If more the people does speak, if more the people does explain to the patients that that's pretty normal and there is nothing criminal, and actually you are not crazy. You can't event crazy if you don't do this. It's very easy thing to just go and speak with the professionals in the moment you don't know how to live and how to what to do as next. As more it will be spoken out, as faster will come the effect. Because if I take a look on 10 years ago and now here in Europe, no one even looks at you strange if you go to psychologists, even if you go to psychiatrist, even then. And this is something we people did change.
Thank you, Sophia, for your opinion. So you've said that there's a waiting period between getting treatment and getting diagnosed. Like, you can't get the help you need when you need it. So in South Asia, most parents are not very open-minded when it comes to their kids having mental health issues. More often than not, they believe that by providing just the basic needs, their child will not have any reason to develop depression or anxiety. Sammy, how receptive are the parents in your region to the idea that their child may have mental health issues? Like, do they get the help they need when they need it?
Yeah, I think this goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that there's no one answer that's going to address every family's situation. So I think the experience of a child who's not a first-generation citizen is going to potentially be different than other people. So we have South Asian families here in my region in the US. And from interviews that I've done in my own research, I've seen that same trend that you're discussing of parents pushing back and also sometimes being offended themselves, thinking that if their child needs mental health support, that it's saying that they have not been successful as parents. So that is even occurring within the US. So I think we can make more generalizations about health insurance and things like that. But let's say if I were to go to my parents, they would be very supportive. That's not everyone's case as well. So yeah, unfortunately, I can't give one concrete answer other than it really depends on the family and their individual backgrounds.
Thank you, Sophia. Miraj, what are your thoughts on this issue?
Please, the question.
The question was that how would your parents react to their kids getting mental health issues? Like, what would their reaction be?
Yes, Bangladesh is a very curious situation, a complex situation, because generally our parents are not showing they are thinking about any mental health problem or a child or his child, because they're thinking when they come to in counseling, when they see her child are not reading or not doing anything, and when seeing the problem of study, that time they come to psychologist and said, my child is not studying at all, what is the problem? But they generally, some are very good, okay, but generally we are seeing that parents are not thinking about they have the one thing, the mind, who is need to care, and there can be a problem. But there, if they become a physical health problem, they will be more concerned about this. And for this, we need to, some organization are working to school about creating mental health awareness. And in our country, there have the child psychologist is very poor. They are not more in our country, because dealing with that child, we need more expert or another issues. So that is the another problem in our country. And also I mentioned that our psychological maximum institute are only in Dhaka city, that's in capital. In others, there are the whole country, they are not any institution or any service. Only one or two places are different district, but other district people, if they anyone psychological problem, they must come to in Dhaka city. That's the big problem for us to in our country. And every week there is not possible for any family to come in their home to Dhaka and go and undergo, or they cannot stay in 2 or 3 months only this purpose. So this is the big issue.
Yeah, and Sophia, I believe, used a word in here, shame. The word, it's a strong word, and I really believe that a lot of parents and people feel that it's shameful to talk about mental health issues, and it's embarrassing to go to a psychiatrist, to go see a professional, where it's not the same for physical health. So would you, for your educational institutions, would you say that you have counselors or professional psychiatrists there to help the students who might suffer from depression or any kind of, mental health problems?
Well, there is always some kind of social psychologist in the institutions like schools, and this is something we have to have. I don't know about Austria because I didn't finish the school here. I was in Germany and I finished a few schools in Latvia and Italy. There's always kind of psychological, counselor, let's call it like this, for the children. But I've seen a work of one colleague in Latvia. Well, I was not really impressed about this, because I was thinking, okay, we're still missing some kind of professionalism, because it's not only work with the students, guys, it's always a work also with the parents, because the parents in the first line are always those who are making in us this general problem which one comes out in the years. We got the depressions because we don't learn to work with the stress, because the parents didn't teach us to do this, or they said it's a shame. For example, how it's in Asian countries where if my mom or my dad says it's a shame to have a problem, so I will be shamed, and actually when I will have this problem I will break down, and this is the next problem. I suppose we're missing still, also as in Europe, but more in other countries, the work between the schools, because we're not talking about adult young people, we're talking still about the children, which one psychological, mental condition is still very, very sensitive, which one can break. There have to be some kind of work between family and the school, but it's not the case, unfortunately, in this moment here. I don't think that it's going to change, because I say always, a person who goes to work with the children, especially those who are like in puberty or smaller children, have to have a psychological degrees. They have to, but they don't, because they have a pedagogical, I'm sorry, they are teachers, they are pedagogues, but they are not psychologists, but they are still working with a new creature which one have to learn to live. And unfortunately, the house and the family is not always that institution which one does teach the child to live. This is the problem. We are missing it also here.
And that's actually a very deep insight into what it's like. So Sauda, would you say that your education institutions have professional trained counselors, and the students are paid attention to their mental health problems are paid attention to?
Well, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. No, it's okay.
No, it's okay.
Continue. I always have something to say, guys. So
it's okay. It's a discussion. You can add if you want. It's a discussion.
I wanted to fix it, because I was not speaking about the universities and about an adult young people, about the students. I'm always speaking about the children, because the students are already like almost done and created personalities. That is something I just wanted to add it.
Okay, that's great. So Sauda, moving on to your insight, what do you think about the question and about students getting help in the institutions?
Okay, I would like to mention, Sumaya, in our university, our Department of Psychology, we have a counseling center, and our faculty members, honorable faculty members, provide mental health support free of cost to the university students. And this is most of the students know that, but I think we should aware our student more. But they provide, our faculty members and our teachers, they provide mental health support when one student think that he should meet a psychologist, or he should take mental health or he should share his sufferings, his sorrowness with some of the professionals. Then he came to our department and contact with our experts, our department's faculties, and our faculty members always try to provide their mental health support free of cost.
Okay, so thank you for your opinions. Let's move on to the questions from the comments if we have received any questions there.
In comment section, there are 2 questions in Facebook. You are muted, ma'am. Sumaya.
Sorry about that. So in the comment section, there are 2 questions. There are actually 3 questions here, as we can see. So there's one specific question for Sammy and Sophia. Did your country take any initiative to control the substance-based addiction or any project to reduce the usage of or availability?
So was the question if our governments have or if we've personally worked on it?
Yeah, I think they asked, the original question is, did your government take any, sorry, did your country take any initiative? So I think they're asking about the government, if the government took an initiative or not.
Yeah, this could be a whole other panel. So we are experiencing what we have labeled as the opioid crisis. So essentially we had medical sales reps partner with doctors, and then there ended up being a whole mass distribution, if you will, of opioids, which people then became dependent on or addicted to. We just had a large settlement with the government, where one of the companies, Purdue is the name of it, they had to pay lots and lots of money in response to this. The tricky issue with government action on this is not a lot, but some of the politicians are gaining money from having stakes in these pharmaceutical countries. So then taking government action isn't in everyone's best interests, because then they would be losing money. So I hope with the future leaders in charge, we can actually take more initiatives, but the role of money in all of this, specifically the opioid crisis, makes it very complex.
And Sophia, can you relate to this, or what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, okay. First of all, I never heard government to speak about these problems. Because we don't speak about these problems, we have a solution. This solution is a psychiatrical clinic. You can get a kind of course of the intensive care if you have a problems with the addiction, is it alcoholic or drug, whatever. It's just a closed instance where you get dry and sore using of course, clinical medicine. But as I heard from a lot of patients who came out of the clinics after the cures from 4 until 6 weeks, they all are still taking, they restart to take everything they took, only because those clinics they are really missing the psychological help. So the psychological treatment, a therapy, of course, because the state, the government does give some money for, let's say, to keep on the hospital, to buy everything's needed from the clinical part, to treat the patients on the clinic, so on the clinical medicine way. But we are still missing the most important part of this all. It's like something like a therapy, because I never saw an addicted who came out without any therapy. Of course, we have a still possibility to have to visit an anonymous alcoholicus, the AA or something like this, but the people doesn't do this for free. Well, actually, there are less of people who really does it, because they are afraid, of course, of the judgment of the others. But the same problem in a developed land or in the less developed land, the people still, of course, think what the others will think about me. And not each addicted can also say, yes, I am addicted, I need help. And this is the next point, because I suppose the most of the patients, they are not really realizing how big the problem is.
Yes, thank you, Sophia. So in our last post, we got a question from one of our viewers who asked that how can we normalize getting help in our society? Like, why is still mental health considered as a stigma, and how can we take steps to reconcile this with asking for help? Sauda, what are your thoughts on this?
Sada, can you hear us?
Yeah, Sumaya, I can hear you.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the question that Autumn asked for? What are your thoughts on how we can normalize the situation of getting help, and how we can talk about this more? Normalize mental health in our society.
Actually, we have to give time, because it's a longitudinal process, as we know. It's not possible to change anyone's perceptions, anyone's beliefs, our belief system, culture, traditions within a few time. It will take a long time, but it will, if we give effort to our peoples, and bring awareness among them, then I hope it will take time, but more, the ratio of the mental health peoples who are suffering from mental health but remain untreated, it will decrease day by day. And problem will people's with suffer from mental health issues will increase, but their awareness will be increased simultaneously, I think.
Thank you, Sauda, for your opinion. Sammy, what do you have to say on this?
I think echoing a lot of things that Sauda said, and I think also just saying a big thank you to the work that Mon is doing, because I think that's what needs to be done, just even in our own lives, is we just share a simple graphic on social media that shows everyone within our social network that we're discussing this. I think also this is probably more so in the case for Austria, Germany, the US, just making sure that people have access to affordable treatment options that don't have this huge wait time. And I think that once people get in, they access these services and they have positive experiences, then they can share that story with people in their lives and continue returning.
Thank you, Sammy, for your opinion.
Yeah, so with our discussion, I think we have come to an end. It was really amazing to have you all with us, and thank you all for taking your time to do this and talk about such issues. We really wanted to see what it was like, how different was it in other countries, as we said earlier that as Miraj and Sauda said earlier, that people here in my region are considered crazy if they talk about the subject of mental health. And we got to know from Sophia that the people in their country might have to, wait in lines for too long to get therapy or to get medical help. Or in the United States, it's pretty expensive for therapy. So it was a pleasure to know all of this from you, and thank you again so much for taking your times. And I think we can end this here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sophia, thank you. And Sammy also for joining us. And obviously, special thanks to Mon and the organizer, because it's an international platform. And we also get the opportunity to know about the diversity in a live session. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us in our live session today.